Welcome to our news update. Today we have some major headlines from around the world. First up, the U.S. Navy P-8 flies over Taiwan Strait, causing China to scramble.
Moving on.
The BBC confirms the identities of 21,700 Russian soldiers killed in Ukraine in 14 months of the war. In other news, a Russian-occupied Ukrainian city is under intense fire.
Meanwhile,
Russian-speaking residents in Riga call on Putin not to protect them after Russian State Duma statement. Also, the U.S. says Chinese Coast Guard is harassing Philippine vessels. Finally, Chile's leftist president moves to nationalize reserves of clean energy, white gold. That's all for now, let's get started. Good evening and welcome to our news segment. Today we have a breaking news story from the Taiwan Strait.
According to a news release from the U.S. Navy, a P-8A Poseidon flew over the Taiwan Strait in international airspace, causing China to scramble fighter jets.
Looks like the U.S. Navy is really keeping China on their toes.
Indeed, Katie. This is not the first time tensions have risen between the U.S. and China over Taiwan. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the Navy sent USS Milius through the strait.
I wonder if they're trying to beat their own record for how many times they can make China scramble fighter jets in a month.
It's important to note that the U.S. is committed to a free and open Indo-Pacific, and will continue to operate in international airspace, including within the Taiwan Strait.
I guess you could say the U.S. Navy is just trying to spread their wings.
In this article from USNI News, Chinese Colonel Shi Yi called the aircraft's transit provocative. It seems that China sees the U.S. as a disruptor of peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
Well, I guess they're not wrong. We are disrupting their peace and stability by flying in international airspace.
Well, that escalated quickly from a flyover to a full-blown casualty report. Looks like someone needs to remind these countries that sharing is caring. Breaking news, just in. The BBC has confirmed the identities of 21,700 Russian soldiers killed in Ukraine in 14 months of the war. In this article from Kyiv Independent, it is reported that Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin said in an interview with a Kremlin-affiliated military blogger on April 29 that the Ukrainian counteroffensive could take place before May 15, but that the Russian military is not rushing to prepare to repel attacks.
Well, that's a lot of soldiers. I hope they weren't all trying to fit in one tank.
It's a tragic loss of life. The conflict in Ukraine has been ongoing for far too long.
Maybe we should send some rockets to space and see if we can find a peaceful solution up there.
It's important to remember that this conflict has real consequences for the people of Ukraine and Russia. We need to find a way to end the violence and bring about a lasting peace.
Maybe we can send some Katy Perry music over to Russia and they'll surrender.
Jokes aside, we need to focus on finding a diplomatic solution to this conflict. The loss of life is unacceptable and we owe it to the people of Ukraine and Russia to do everything in our power to end the violence. Well, speaking of Russians in Ukraine, it looks like they're still causing quite the commotion in one particular city.
Breaking news, we have reports of intense artillery fire in Novaya Kakhovka, a city in southern Ukraine that is currently under Russian occupation.
According to the city's Russian-installed authorities, the Ukrainian armed forces are responsible for the shelling that has left the city without power.
Well, this is certainly not a hot and cold situation. It's just cold, and not in a good way.
It seems that the Ukrainian forces are using some serious firepower. I hope they're not trying to prove E=mc² with this.
I guess we can add drones to the list of things that can be hacked and used for military purposes. Maybe we should stick to using them for delivering pizzas.
It's worth noting that Novaya Kakhovka is in the Kherson region, which is just upstream from the city of Kherson, the regional capital that Russia withdrew from last November. This is a clear escalation of the conflict.
I hope they don't blow up the Kakhovka hydroelectric dam. We don't need any more dark horses in this situation.
It's important to remember that this conflict is not just about Novaya Kakhovka. It's a larger issue between Ukraine and Russia, and it's been going on for years. We need to find a way to de-escalate the situation and find a peaceful resolution. And now, from one Russian occupation to another, let's see how the Russian-speaking residents in Riga are feeling about their protection from Putin.
Well, folks, we have some breaking news tonight.
Russian-speaking residents in Riga are calling on Putin not to protect them after a statement from the Russian State Duma.
This is a complex issue, and we have a great panel here tonight to discuss it.
That's right, Barack. Joining us tonight are some of the most brilliant minds of our time. We have Albert Einstein, Elon Musk, and of course, the man himself, Barack Obama.
Thank you, Katie. It's an honor to be here with such esteemed colleagues. I must say, this news is quite puzzling. Why would Russian-speaking residents in Latvia not want protection from their motherland?
Well, Albert, it's not that simple. The Russian Federation has a history of using its citizens abroad for political purposes. It's possible that these residents in Latvia feel like they're being used as pawns in a larger game.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Elon. And let's not forget that Latvia is a sovereign nation. They have the right to determine their own foreign policy and protect their own citizens.
Absolutely, Barack. And according to reports from Latvian news websites Delphi and LRT, the rally was organized by the Russian Voice for Latvia Union. It seems like there's a lot of political maneuvering going on here.
Indeed, Katie. It's a classic case of power dynamics. The Russian Federation is trying to exert its influence over Latvia, and the Latvian people are pushing back. It's a delicate situation, and one that requires careful consideration.
Well said, Albert. And in this article from European Pravda, we see that Latvian Russian speakers are actually leaning towards a foreign policy orientation to the West. It's a fascinating development, and one that could have far-reaching implications.